Welcome to the SCL podcast, filmed in the MD Acoustics anechoic chamber at their testing facility in beautiful Gilbert, Arizona. Today, we are joined by a pioneer in the next generation of hearing protection, Anthony Dietz, the president of Paxauris. With his roots in aerospace engineering and advanced research at NASA, he brings a deep technical insight and entrepreneurial vision. With a PhD from Oxford, Anthony leads innovation that redefines how we protect hearing.
We're really excited to have you here. I got really excited when I found out you lived here locally.
Yeah.
And so I was like, we got to have him on the show because you are like the perfect guest, right? I'm sure you have so much to share, so we really want to hear all you have to share.
I was excited to discover you guys were here, and the facilities you have are incredible.
Thank you. I really quickly, like, I just want to hear like your journey. How did you end up being from, like your quick story, like where you came from to where you got, and how did you end up being here in Phoenix?
Yeah, it's kind of a long story.
Oh,
I can give you the long story.
Well, you have such an established background, right? Like you have, there's a lot there.
And interestingly, it's always been in noise, which is why I think I was interested in hearing protection. But I grew up on Air Force bases. My dad was in the Australian Air Force. I joined the Australian Air Force myself. Like initially wanted to fly jets, but then got more interested in engineering. So I ended up doing an aeronautical engineering degree. Then I won a scholarship at Rhodes over to Oxford in England, and I did my PhD in turbo machinery over there, funded by Rolls-Royce. I was looking at the flow through the high pressure turbine stage of a jet engine, making pressure measurements on the rotor, on the rotating turbine blades.
Wow.
Then back to the Air Force because I still owed time, and I worked as a flight test engineer for 3 years testing F-18s, mostly a flight loads trial on F-18. We were breaking them much faster than the Americans were, and that was a concern. Wow. So we had a Australian-Canadian project to measure the loads and then shake and break them and figure out what the new fatigue life was.
Wow.
Interestingly enough, I'm dealing with fatigue now, but that's another story. So then after that, I'd met an American woman in Oxford. We did the long distance thing. We got married. I moved to the US. Worked for NASA in San Francisco, NASA Ames. And that's where I was looking at the flow across wings, boundary layers, how boundary layers transition to turbulence. I started wondering if you could cancel the Tolman-Schlichting waves, the instability waves, with acoustic impulses, so bearing speakers in a wing, microphones, and that's when I got into active noise cancellation, but it was actually cancelling waves in boundary layers. So then when I left there and I went to work for Criari, which was a company in New Hampshire doing research and development, that's where I started looking at active noise control. We were looking at feed-forward active noise control. And then on a Navy project, I got into actually passive noise reduction. And this was specifically looking at aircraft carrier deck crews who were just in incredible amounts of noise, 150 decibels. So one launch can put you at risk of hearing damage, even if you're wearing double hearing protection.
Wow.
So what we developed was this triple hearing protection.
Wow.
So that's earplugs, earmuffs, and then a helmet. And the helmet seals to your head like an earmuff and gives you that third layer of protection. And then we did a whole lot of studies, especially looking at canceling the bone conduction route, which is, if you think air conduction going through your ear to your tympanic membrane to your cochlea, well then the bone conduction route is going straight through your skull and shaking the cochlea, and you can get hearing damage that way when you're in these very loud sound fields. So we were trying to cancel the bone conduction route.
Were you successful?
Yeah, the helmet worked really well. I think we probably hold the record in hearing protection at 50 decibels.
Wow.
NRR at 50, which is much higher. It worked so well that the guys couldn't hear anything, so they hated it because they couldn't communicate or hear warnings. So then, of course, we put hear through it, and that was a real lesson in comfort, right? Because you put this helmet on, you're essentially isolated from your audio environment, and that's very uncomfortable. And so everyone's like, we hate it, it's too hard, it's uncomfortable, it's too much pressure. You turn on the hear through, and suddenly they've got the hearing back, and like, oh, I love this is nice. So it wasn't, they were kind of expressing their discomfort at being isolated from their audio environment as heat, stuffiness, pressure, but not the fact that they couldn't hear. So,
interesting.
yeah. So it was in that project that then I realized that the earplugs, we were using the foam earplugs, yellow foam earplugs, that they just did not work very well for many people. Particularly, they did not work for me. So I was out on a carrier deck making noise measurements of aircraft launches. So I'm literally 20 feet from an F-18 at full mil power, straining against its catapult about to take off. And so I was very concerned. I had my earplugs in, but I couldn't get them to seal. And so I'm like, the way I tell is I like rub my fingers, and if it can hear that sound, it means
you're like, oh, this thing's about to take off, and I can hear this.
I was in the ready room before going out, but yeah, that was my concern. And so I was like tearing up, trying to shove them into my ears, and then the guy I was with wasn't even wearing any earplugs. And I'm like, why aren't you putting your earplugs in? He's like, oh, we're only going out for a few launches. And I'm like, one launch, buddy, one launch, and you're
toast.
Risk of hearing damage.
You just got to put that helmet on him, and then he can be like, that's what's going to happen to your hearing. You're not going to hear anything.
Exactly.
And then you turn it on and be like,
So that's when I started doing a lot more research in earplugs, because the performance of a helmet depended on getting good earplugs fit. Yeah. And I realized that's when I started looking for something better, and that's where the idea for the fluid earplug came along.
Okay.
And it turns out I found after visiting an audiologist that I actually had this condition called surface ear. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but if you're exposed to cold water a lot, like that's why a lot of surfers have it. Your ear starts growing these little bony growths called exostoses.
Okay.
Kind of like, I guess, trying to protect itself. They're not really sure why it does this, but eventually it can close your whole ear canal off.
Wow.
And this happens to maybe like 1 in 5 surfers. 4 out of 5 surfers have the condition, but it gets so bad, and then you end up having to have your ears drilled out, which can give you hearing damage just from the vibration from the drill. So I don't want that to happen, so I stopped swimming because I love swimming, but I'm like, I don't want this to get any worse. So now I really wanted an earplug that worked for my surface ear condition to keep water out and sound out. So that's what this whole project started with.
Well, so you started with this project, but you took this idea outside of your previous employer, right? And you kind of ran with that.
Yeah, so it initially started as an SBIR, which I proposed the inflatable earplug for helicopter pilots.
So SBIR, though, what does that mean for the listener who doesn't know that?
Yeah. So it's a government grant. The government, the major research agencies, all of them, NASA, the Department of Defense, NIH, NAST, they all have to put a set aside every year of about, I think it's 3.5% of their research budget, and that has to go to small businesses. Awesome. And they put solicitations out saying this is the problems we have, and companies, small businesses, which means you have less than 500 employees, can bid on those solicitations. So the one I bid on was one they were looking for a better helmet or hearing protection for helicopter crews. And we designed a different ear cup for the Gentex helmet and proposed the fluid earplug. So that was the genesis of getting research dollars to start developing this.
Do you get your hands physically on like these helmets or anything like that as well? Like once you win the project?
Yeah, we would either buy them on the market or get the government to give us them as government property, which means you have to return them.
Interesting.
And manage it. But then I thought the idea worked, but I still had a lot of development, so that's when I took it out of Criari and started Paxauris, because I really wanted to bring this to market.
What does Paxauris mean?
Paxauris is Latin for peaceful ear. Paxauris.
Okay. Yeah. Peaceful, we like that.
And our mission is to improve lives by protecting ears.
Love that. That's awesome.
You know how much work went into that mission statement.
Well, you get to use your creative side, right? Not only using your math and your engineering side, but then you also kind of like, I always felt like, at our company, it's just my initials and acoustics. It's not very unique, that's for sure.
Well, I thought we came up with the name because I thought about it, had a few options, presented them to my daughters, and they chose Paxauris because it sounded like a dinosaur.
There you go. I like it.
There you go.
No, it's
I like the logic behind that.
When did you officially kind of like launch that or kind of get going with that? How long ago was that?
We moved here, but then it took a while to get funding. We first got funded in 2020, so it's been about
almost 5 years now.
Since being funded, but there was probably 5 years before that where I was trying to get funding. Doing other things.
Now, you mentioned several times, I've heard it, where you've mentioned the liquid ear plug. Mm-hmm. Can you explain some of that?
Sure.
I don't know.
I can hand them out.
Okay, here you go.
Let's see.
Here's your little...
Matt, I don't know if you want to zoom in on this, but this is we got a demo here.
A demo in this...
In the actual, this is pretty sweet.
So I'll show it to you. I've got a cord on mine just because you can put cords on them.
Yeah.
But this is the earplug, and you hold it like a syringe between your two fingers.
Okay.
Push on the bottom of the tab there, and that's how it inflates.
Nice.
And then to deflate it, hold the rim and deflate it. And I always get people to practice a few times because when you stick it in your ear, you can't really see what you're doing.
Yeah.
So a few things about the design of this that are important. We obviously wanted to keep the pressure very low in this for comfort. It has a stem through there, and that's needed for the low frequency attenuation performance. Wow. And the reason we want it to inflate radially, see how it inflates radially?
Yes.
It doesn't blow out this direction, because if you inflate axially, then when you deflate, you can be pulling a vacuum
like
on
a
the
negative
eardrum,
pressure almost.
and you can kind of, our early versions did that, and it was hard to get them to deflate.
Oh.
Whereas this one, you don't feel any pain deflating because it deflates actually. So the way you put it in your ear is, because I have tortuous ear canals and everything, I reach out, open the pinna out, and then work it. And the nice thing about this compared to a foam earplug is I can work it into the position I want it in, and it feels good there, and then inflate it.
And then it's like
Right.
fully sealed.
Right, and
That's
then
cool.
it's fully sealed. Whereas a foam earplug is inflating all the time, so you have to get it in there quick, and
Yeah.
you don't have an ability to adjust it. If I don't like how it's sealed, if it's not sealed, I can deflate it, move it around a bit more, inflate it again. So our guidance for you is, if it's the first time you're using it, and I love to see people use them for the first time, start fairly shallow,
Okay.
inflate it, see how that
Do you want me
feels.
to put this in?
Yeah, deflate
All
it.
right.
Go deeper, inflate it again. If you use a small tip, like you've got the small size, we tend to say try the small one first. If that seals, that's the size you want. If the small one doesn't seal, then try the large.
Wow. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I know, right? That's why you see people the first time. Wow, that's usually the response we get.
Nice.
That is amazing.
Yeah,
That was really easy.
Yeah.
easy to
As
fit.
somebody like in our occupation where we're always measuring loud noise sources,
Right.
and you just walked our lab here, you see some things in there that are pretty noisy. This is
have you
amazing.
made-
This is awesome to put in. Super
thank
easy.
you.
It's
Have
super
you made
easy.
children's
and
sizes yet?
it works so
Well, that's
well.
essentially our small, which would
Ah.
work. Does that seal for you or no?
I think so, yeah.
And
If it seals,
you can
good.
swim in
I
this
have a
too.
large if you want to. I use them primarily for swimming because they're excellent. At
I
keeping
am
water
in
out.
love with these. My 6-year-old son needs these. He's got tubes in his ears, and
right, yeah.
his water, like the water,
Water is a huge pain.
it's a
right?
pain for him. So
Yeah.
like, and just trying to get the other ear, they don't work. But this thing I can feel is like it is sealed in there.
And once you get it in there and you have it sealed, if you want to talk to someone, you can just like
You don't have to pull it all the way out.
deflate it,
Just
leave it
deflate
in there. Now you can hear perfectly well. Then if you want to inflate it again, so it's like an on-off switch for your ear, which is pretty.
We just
Pretty
met
awesome.
the next, billionaire right here. We hope.
Honestly,
This is
very-
awesome. This is
very
amazing.
sold. No, my wife has a hard time getting
So-
earplugs.
Yeah,
So-
no, I use them for swimming, sleeping, traveling, definitely traveling, and
yeah.
whenever I'm
Yes.
in noise.
You see that?
It's super comfortable too. Like,
It's really comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is
My little plug. We have a Kickstarter campaign running right now.
okay. So
Yeah.
yeah,
One
seen
more
that.
week, your last chance to back us.
okay. We'll back you.
Awesome.
Mike's like,
Yeah, I'm backing it. We'll pay for these now. But
mean,
you know,
every employee gets them.
honestly, this is not a bad thing. We'll pay.
Don't lose them.
I'm happy to pay for it. 100% for
They're-
every employee.
They're very comfortable.
Yeah,
That's
this is
the
amazing.
thing I like about it.
We're around construction equipment all day long.
Exactly. That's when I find it. If you need to be able to put them in and out really quick in the heat, they work really well.
Here's the thing. I know for a fact, just not that I'm going to try to push it, but I think we go to some of our
Yeah.
partners, like
Yeah.
all of our clients,
Yeah.
and you name them here, all the biggest firms, companies here, and
Right.
are our clients. So I would love to. This is awesome.
And
Yeah.
it's reusable. It does have a life, and this is where that fatigue question comes in that was
Okay.
mentioned before. The silicon, I didn't know this, has a fatigue life, just like
yeah.
titanium or aluminum. And so then eventually, after a certain number of cycles, they will fail. And so part of our design cycle has been how can we increase that life, and what is the best life to aim for?
What is that?
Right now it's at 450 cycles at 99% confidence level,
Okay.
which means 3 months of daily use or a year if you're using them occasionally, like on the weekends and things like that.
Got it.
The way we found that out is we tested thousands of cycles in an automatic test machine, right? Inflate, deflate, inflate, deflate until it breaks. And there's quite a big bell curve on that. So that's 450 is the 99%, but we have ones last out 3,000, 4,000 cycles.
Got it.
So the way I use them, I just use them till they fail.
Sure.
I haven't had one of our
What does a failure look like?
It
Does it inflate or?
It just leaks out glycerin.
Okay.
So once it starts leaking,
Yeah.
kind of like a shock or a a CV boot or something on your car, like it starts to leak.
Exactly. It just oozes out. People like online, we've got a lot of questions about, it's going to blow your eardrum when it bursts. And they don't realize fluid's incompressible. So when a fluid thing bursts, it just leaks.
Yeah.
Have you seen those high-speed videos of a water balloon? You pop it,
Yeah.
the skin goes, whoosh, and then you've got a globule of water sitting there, and then it falls.
Yeah.
That's how they fail. Whereas it's not like an air balloon, which you pop it bursts because it's expansive.
You just might
gas.
suddenly have a wet willy in there.
Yeah, exactly. We call it you have a bit of a spritz. But the glycerin is completely safe for your ear. It's what all the audiologists use to clean out or soften earwax.
That's cool.
So it'll drain out naturally. You don't need to stick things in.
And you might have less earwax.
Again, if
You
it's
will
like
have less
my
earwax.
6-year-old son who's got a lot of earwax, this is perfect. Just to know.
These actually, interestingly enough, they clean your ear out. So the first time you stick them in, you might notice you've got some earwax on there.
Yeah.
Wash them in soap and water. The next few times, because you saw how it inflates and deflates, it inflates against the wall of your ear canal. When it deflates, this earwax sticks to the silicone. So it's very effective at pulling earwax out. Unlike foam earplugs, or flanged earplugs,
kind of pushes
which
it
can
in.
push it in.
That's
and
right.
Impact it. Yeah.
I was going to ask when you said it caused a suction. I was like, can it like suction it out?
This is so
no, it
cool.
more is it sticks it and
No,
then
it
pulls
just
it out.
sticks.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
and you got obviously patents and everything. Like, what was that? Can you walk us through that process? Because again, like part of the podcast, right? What I love about you being the guest is you have the background in STEM, right? You took, you work in basically in corporate and government, and then here you are taking a risk on yourself and an entrepreneur. So I mean, now you had this idea. How long did it take for you to kind of go get the patent and everything with that?
Yeah, so we're not the first to come up with an inflatable earplug, nor the first to try and patent it.
Sure.
There's probably 20, 30 patents out there on inflatable earplugs. The thing that made our earplug workable, and the thing we've patented, is this bistable hemisphere cap.
Okay.
The fact that you push the cap in and it pops in, and then that's what holds the pressure, that is what's patented in this design.
I like how you said the bistable, because like that's such a technical term, right?
We've
Like,
thought of, how do you describe it? It's a bistable hemisphere cap. How else?
but that's what I always love about learning things. Like there's just terminology and language that I would just have never even thought of. But then you said that, I'm like, that is a great
is what it
description.
is.
Well, and does it ever pop out on its own?
Oh yeah, you can. If you push it, I can pop it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's something we've discovered with silicon, is that it not only has it a fatigue life, it also ages and it softens over time.
Got it.
So now our challenge is, what durometer and thickness to make this, not only so it works initially, but over time it won't soften to the point where you can't seal in your ear.
Got it.
So we've had a lot of these designed. This is our Gen 6 earplug.
Gen 6.
And the next one will be, this is Gen 5, the next one will be Gen 6, the one that we're delivering on the Kickstarter.
Okay.
And these are all the issues we've dealt with. We've tried a lot of fluids in there. We've tried, mineral oils, olive oil, glycerin, silicon oils. and we're just discovering things like we tried silicon oil, and literally the silicon sheath soaked up the oil and expanded to twice its size. Like, whoa.
Wow.
Who knew that was going to happen?
Yeah.
You look up all the material compatibility sheets, and it said that it should be completely compatible, but no, it wasn't.
No, I love hearing this process of going through, even the things that failed, right? On paper, it seemed like it should be fine, and then it just didn't.
I like to say we're like the Edisons of earplugs. We know 10,000 ways not to make an earplug, and one way to make a good one. Okay, you want to see something really cool?
Yeah.
This is a liquid metal earplug. So we thought, what else could we stick in it? Well, let's stick gallium in, which is like the only metal that's liquid at maybe mercury at room temperature.
Yeah.
So this is a liquid metal.
Oh my goodness.
How cool is that?
That
Now
is
feel
cool.
it. Feel the weight of it.
Oh wow. Yeah. That's cool.
This is when your engineers start having some fun.
Yeah, right. Like you guys get to.
So don't put that in your eye. Put that one in my ear. But we did put it in our acoustic test fixture. We have a biofidelic acoustic test fixture, which behaves like human head.
Like a dummy head, right?
Dummy head has skull bone, has tissue, has a brain. We have a hydrophone in the brain for blast testing, and we have microphones at the end of the ear canal for acoustic tests.
Who makes that?
I designed it at my previous company. But we bought it off them.
Wow.
That's awesome.
And yeah, it's really helpful because we can then do all our testing knowing that it has the bone conduction path, has the air conduction path, has a real ear canal.
Neat.
So it when we go to human subject testing,
that's got some weight.
it's very good. So we could actually then put this in and see what a metal earplug, and then we let it solidify, and like just by cooling it down, and then had a solid metal earplug, and that told us a lot about the resonances of liquid in the ear, because we had air earplug, we had a glycerin one, we had a water one, we had an alcohol one, we had a liquid metal one, and then a solid metal one, and then foam, of course. So we looked at all those things, and now we start to understand how the weight and the different fluids affected the resonances of the hearing protection.
That is awesome. Yeah, I mean, you have a ton of data. Yeah, no, that's amazing.
That's awesome.
That is really cool. So when you come across failure, right? Like like you said, 10,000 ways not to build a earplug. How do you handle that, like as an entrepreneur, and how do you pivot, and what is that like? Does that get you morally down, or does that like, okay, we're gonna keep going, or what's that like?
Yeah, as an engineer, you're trained to problem solve. So that's kind of, in many ways, the interesting part of the job is, I did not see this one coming. Now let's understand it. Now let's solve it.
Yeah.
And from the business side, it's all about risk management. So it's about straight up, let's find our fastest way to test the major risks and prove that we don't have a showstopper. Yeah. So that's one thing I always say, is try to get your answer as quick as you can.
Sure.
And then backfill all the details that you need. But you can often get that quick look with a really fast experiment, just cobbling things together to say, is this going to be a problem? And then once you've identified the risks, then you do the tests, and then you try to come up with the solutions. So initially we got an earplug working. The next thing we identified was, what life does it have? So we started our life testing. We were just sitting there watching TV, inflating, deflating, what is the life of this thing? And then when we realized that might be an issue, we developed an automated test fixture to actually allow us to test the life. Because then you need a test which is your baseline test to see if your incremental improvements you're making work.
Yeah.
And so that's where the automated test machine is. We suddenly saw, oh well, we've got a really long large standard deviation, so we're gonna have to do a lot of testing to get a statistically significant result. And that's where this head fixture came from as well, because when I started developing hearing protection, I do tests with human subjects, and very quickly realized humans are not repeatable.
No.
And as an aeronautical engineer, where we have safety factors of 1.1, 1.2, and any test is highly specific and repeatable, you test on humans, you get a 50% like standard deviation. Like, how can I work with this? I can't design something when every time we test it, the standard deviations are this big. So that's where we decided we need to develop a human-like head that's repeatable, so we can then measure these small changes. And that's when we really started getting better at our hearing protection, started improving, because we could change small things and measure the effect. And then we'd go to the human test, and then it would prove out. But
when you visit Rob, you better show him these. I will tell you that he'd probably appreciate it.
Oh no, absolutely.
I'm sure he will.
Yeah. These are cool. Have you considered making different sizes for animals? I know 4th of July every year, someone's dog is going to have a hard time.
So funny story, just a little one. We just bought my dog over-the-ear hearing protection. My wife bought it. Don't ask me why. He loves them. Yeah. He wears them because it like knocks out all the weird noises and all the stuff that kind of makes him anxious, and it works great for fireworks. Can we get like an in-ear like? Whoop?
Yeah. So I actually did propose this. There was an Army SBIR for dogs, military dogs. It takes something like $250,000 to train a military working dog.
Wow.
And they go deaf very quickly
Yeah.
because of their exposure to gunshots. And so it's a financial as well as a lifestyle for the dogs, to give them protection. So we proposed this for military working dogs, and then I tried putting one in my dog's ear, and the dog head shake response is so powerful. He could just fling them across the room. Like, we'd get a fully insert and a dog's ear canal goes, and then there's a 90-degree bend at the bottom. I'd get them deep into his ear, and he'd go flying.
He wasn't a fan.
And so I thought, probably you could train a military working dog to not head shake the thing out of their ear, but dogs don't have fingers. They have to have some way to get things out of their ears. So
That's
I was
crazy.
gonna say, you make it for expensive military dogs. Can we get it for neurotic, normal dogs?
Well, I have talked to the company at Virginia Tech who won that SBIR, and they've been developing custom molded earplugs for dogs and trying to come up with a way to solve that. And it's a very difficult problem.
Yeah, I bet.
There's just so many cool applications. Like, I'm just thinking, I mean, you showed us earlier, I don't know if it made it to camera, was the pass-through, the dosimeter in the ear and all that stuff.
Right, yeah.
Like,
because that's the next problem is once you've got your hearing protection, is it working, and how much you're actually being exposed to. So our goal there is to have a dosimeter, which is a noise measuring device that measures the sound actually in the ear canal. Because the way it works now is you measure it on your shoulder, and then you have to assume the protection you're getting, and most people don't get the advertised protection.
No.
Like, if you look at a earplug, a foam earplug, typically the good foam earplugs have an NRR, which is the noise reduction rating, listed around 33 dB.
if you're lucky.
Well,
If
what
it's-
that
yeah.
is that's the best possible protection you could expect, because there's these two methods of testing. Called method A, method B. When you do a REAT test, which is the real ear attenuation at threshold, is where you basically sit in a sound field, measure your threshold, which is like the little tone you get when you're doing a hearing test. That's the lowest sound you can hear. Put your hearing protection in, do it again, and your threshold's gone up because of the hearing protection. The difference between those two thresholds is your attenuation.
Got it.
So they get 20 subjects, and these subjects are trained in how to fit foam earplugs, and in many cases they've been triaged that they're good at fitting foam earplugs in, and that's where the NRR comes from. You take those same earplugs and give them to a population that's not trained or is not taking so much care.
It's way
Method
lower.
A is motivated and trained. Method B is naive subjects who would just like read the instructions, put them in their ear, and you'll find that typically you get much, much less, of the order of 50% less attenuation when you're with this kind of subject. So that's when we started looking at, okay, so you've got this, you assume the NRR, and then you derate it, and OSHA recommends derating it by 50%, and that's your noise exposure. Now people say, well, that the best standard of practice is to do something called a fit check, where the person actually fits their hearing protection, puts on headphones, does a miniature REAT test, and gets their personal attenuation rating. So the current best standard is measure your noise exposure, you know your personal attenuation rating, now you know your actual exposure. The future is measure your actual exposure in your ear, includes the protection of the hearing protector. Now you know your actual exposure. So that's what we're working towards.
That's awesome. And I think, like, just so if we got people who are like, well, why is that even important, right?
Yeah.
I think because people are like, well,
That's true.
I
Why
go
do
to
I
rock
care? Yeah.
why do I care? I go to rock concerts. I love the music loud or whatever it is, right? But they got to realize, like, hearing loss is what like the number one occupational health
It is, yeah.
hazard, right? So you think about that, you can't improve your hearing anymore. Most people are like, hey, I can go get LASIK surgery, I can go do this to my eyes, or I can do whatever.
Can't fix it.
You can't fix your ears yet.
You're dead right. It's irreversible, and it is the number one worker injury, number one military amongst veterans injury. The VA spending, by my calculations, something like $12 billion a year on hearing damage claims.
Wow.
There's that 3M lawsuit we're talking about.
We were just talking about the 3M lawsuit.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's a huge problem, and people, you think you're indestructible when you're young, but all this damage accumulates, and so then when you're older and you have trouble, especially with that noise in crowd problem, that's usually where it first shows up, and then it gets worse and worse until the whole world becomes muffled, or worse, you get the tinnitus, which is the ringing in your ear that just doesn't go away.
Had you had these when you were on the flight deck next to an F-18, would you have been as nervous, or would you have been like...
Oh no, I would have felt much better, because I would have immediately known I have a good seal.
Yeah.
Right.
I was gonna say, so 20-year-old me who was in the clubs at seeing bands play, using my little foam earplugs, I probably wasn't doing them right, is what you're saying.
Well, you were so much better off than the people
Well,
not wearing any earplugs.
It might be
right?
questionable, let's be honest. But if we had these,
At least having something in your ear is a massive step up from the folks who have nothing in their
yes,
ear.
like the time I rolled up napkins and did it, that worked real well.
Well, I'll be honest. Like one time, I was I know I got old when I went and saw U2 play, and I was with my wife, and I said I can't sit here.
Because you went to see U2 play?
No.
Was that your sign?
No, it's because the
That's a good song.
Yeah, that's right. No, it was so loud, and I had to go get. They give you earplugs if you want to go get them, right? And I had to go get them, and I was just like, this was uncomfortable.
Well, I went to see Bruce Springsteen here, and I took a whole bag of earplugs. And I sat there during the concert, and I just kept putting in different earplugs, trying them all out. This was before I had a working version of our earplug, and they would either be not protecting me, or I'd be getting these weird resonances, which made this would buzz in your ear or sound, and I was like, there's nothing out there that works for me. And then with these, I took them to a Foo Fighters concert recently.
Oh, I love that.
The sound was so loud. I mean, my water bottle was vibrating, but they actually sounded so much better with the earplugs in.
Yeah.
It was bearable. You're like, this is that's so awesome.
Well, that's as I've gotten older and I still go see bands play. I've just found that they sound better when I actually wear my head or my earplugs, because certain tones and things are just sounding so much better.
And my daughter took him. She was at a music festival. Actually, it was in Barcelona, I think. But she said by day 3 of the festival, she was so acoustically fatigued. Yeah. She was just wearing the earplugs just because she was feeling so tired from being exposed to the sound for so long. That's interesting.
That is really interesting. And one thing is, we were trying to get an astronaut on here one time, and one of the questions I always had was like, what do they experience? And I know people have talked to me about it, but like when they're in the fairing, when they're taking off, what is that level inside there? Obviously they're wearing double or maybe potentially triple hearing protection, but I'm assuming like something like this, and obviously they're going to have comms and all kinds of stuff as they're going through, right? But like those are the kinds of things like I, as a nerd, was geeking out about, because I was thinking, man, we know it's really loud in there, but these are real problems that like engineers have to solve and continue to solve, right? And improve upon.
And one of the issues with astronauts is actually on the space station. It has I think its sound level, its consistent sound level is around 75 dB.
Wow.
Oh.
And when we look at our hearing protection guidelines in the US, it's like 85 dB with
like
a
an
3 dB
8-hour
exchange
exposure.
rate. Yeah, so 85 for 8 hours, then add 3 dB in half the time, so 88 for 4 hours, and it goes on. But that assumes that you've got 8 hours of exposure and then quiet for the next 16 hours. And that allows your ears to recover. If you're in somewhere where you have continuous sound and no recovery period, how much worse is that? And so that's the same for the sailors on aircraft carriers. Often their berth is right under the catapult. So they are getting noise all day, and when they go to sleep, they're still getting noise. So that one project we looked at with NASA was, well, how do you protect astronauts while they sleep so that at least they get that quiet recovery period?
That is
amazing. You tie it back in with fatigue, right? You tested these to see at what point do they fail.
Yeah.
When you understand like how delicate the structures inside the cochlea are, the basilar membrane and all of the hair cells, each of the different parts of the hearing mechanism, and you think about how little and delicate that is, and you're pounding it with all this pressure at a rock concert or under a catapult, or in a space station 24/7 all day long. All of that adds up and it wears down over time. So it's
the little hairs inside the cochlea eventually fatigue, break off. You look at the hair cells on the basilar membrane with a noise damaged ear, and they're just all decimated. And that's how you get that's those hair cells transduce the signals into your brain. So it's and even the little delicate little bones, they're the smallest bones in the body, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there you go, kids. Protect your hearing.
Ears are cool
it's
and
important.
precious. Look after
They
them.
really are.
Yeah, so
Well,
true.
we're probably getting close to wrapping up, and your story is crazy. All the way from Australia, Oxford,
it's amazing.
New Hampshire. Like you have this really cool thing. When we have younger people who oftentimes come and they ask, what should I do? Like they don't know. What are some recommendations you would give to people as they go and start their journey, especially in this field? I mean, obviously you've bet on yourself a bit by completely breaking away from everything you were doing for 16 years. What type of advice would you give people?
That's a good question. I think the advice I've always lived by is whatever I'm doing, do my best at it. And I kind of lucky in that I get into whatever I'm focused on at that point. You know, when I was studying turbo machinery, I was super into the flow through jet engines. And when I was studying boundary layer transition, that was, you know, I was very into the receptivity of boundary layers to turbulence. And so and now I'm super into hearing protection. So but in all of these, you're taking the same skill set that you developed through your engineering degree and your training, and you're just applying it to different problems. And so then I was never, I've got to be this. It's more just, this is really interesting, and this is the opportunity I have right now. I'm going to put everything I have into that. The other one, and this advice I've heard more from an entrepreneur who gave it in one of those talks, and they asked him the same question, and it was actually her, and she said, be open to synergy. And I thought that was a really, really good statement. And that basically means, you know, you're working really hard on this, and there's this thing over here. Don't ignore it, right?
Yeah.
That might be, you know, they say one door opens, another closes, but sometimes you just go like, you know, I'm going to try this out because it looks cool and interesting, right? And rather than, I've got to do this because this is what I'm doing. And the other quote that came up in that same conference was, you never know when you've just had your best day. And that's often like when you feel really down, like, oh my God, I didn't get that job I wanted, or this experiment just blew up in my face. You know, maybe that was then the jump that put you on this new track, which now turned out to be an awesome track to be on. So often your worst days turn out, in hindsight, to be your best days.
I love that. I love it. That's one thing I got from your story, actually, where you said, I started here, and then I started doing this, and I looked at this, and now I'm here. And it's like, you just didn't stick in one thing. You let things kind of flow as they came up and interest you. Yeah,
I had two main projects I was working on. One was hearing protection for aircraft carrier deck crews. One was superconducting power transmission for aircraft. Looking at developing for NASA a hybrid aircraft where you need to have superconducting power transmission to get the weight down. And turns out superconducting power transmission is really, really difficult. And I had this like $2 million experiment that we were running, like putting 10,000 amps through this 2 meter long cable, and it went resistive, and the whole thing just went, just melted, because the minute you get any resistance in a joint or something, it'll just fry the thing. And so I was like, this is really hard, and I don't think I could do this as an entrepreneur in my garage. Hearing protection, maybe that's solvable, that problem.
Well, so that brings to another point, like the transition now to entrepreneur, because you're kind of wearing multiple hats.
Yeah, right.
Like, is that really hard?
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's so simple.
Yeah. Like, is it you know, I mean, I know it's hard, but like, would you say, I mean, it's just like you said, like you have an experiment that fails. I mean, you experience failure, it's all that stuff. So yeah, I mean, how is that transition for you?
It was suddenly, you know, being at the, you know, very, very well, a lot of expertise in my field, transitioning to a field where I knew nothing. I didn't have an MBA, I didn't have any business experience. I didn't know what a cost of goods sold was, what a customer acquisition cost, any of these things. I had no idea. I just thought, I'll just make earplugs and customers will come. And that was a lot of naivety, which I think is important when you take a jump like that, because otherwise you'd never do it.
That's right. Yeah.
I did research. We moved to Arizona because Arizona had a lot of support for startups and a good community here. There's this thing called the Arizona Innovation Challenge.
Yep.
We applied for that. We didn't get it the first years. We didn't know what we were doing. Or I didn't know what I was doing. It was just me at the time. And then they had this really good program where they said, okay, all the losers, all the semifinalists, we're going to have a losers program where we teach you what you need to know to win. And that was run by Mark Murremans, who's this really wonderful person who took us kind of under his wing and then took us through 12 weeks of, okay, here's how you run a startup, here's how you run a business, here's all the things you need to know.
That's awesome.
And so I went through that program and came out of it I was almost like in a mini MBA, and so I was like, now I know what I need to do to set this business up. So then we got a Flynn Foundation bioentrepreneurial program. I got a mentor from that who was wonderful. I then did the Arizona Innovation Challenge and got a mentor through that who was wonderful. So I really benefited from having great mentors who could tell me all the things I was doing wrong, and through these programs, which then were like mini boot camps for how to run a business. So that's
awesome.
kind of how something that helped me make that transition.
I would always say this, like in engineering, you can work with other people and you have camaraderie, but as an entrepreneur, I felt like I'm on a solo island.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
So like running into other entrepreneurs, you kind of bond with that. They understand, like you just don't understand, like, how am I going to make the payment here, or when are we going to get a customer, or all of the stuff you're talking about. But I always learn, like, hey, fail fast so that you can move forward, because the faster you fail, then the easier it is to pivot and make the right steps.
When you still have opportunity to do it. And so getting the cohorts from those programs was very helpful, because now I had people I could call up and say, how are you dealing with this? How are you dealing with that? And then
awesome.
The other thing, Venture Cafe here, I don't know if you've ever been, but it's it's a cool program. So it's a place you can go on Thursday nights just downtown. They have talks, but mostly you can meet other entrepreneurs and talk about the issues you're having. So I think funding and community. And then the third part is talent. Yeah, you need to be able to hire good people, and so we've done really well from ASU with actually ASU interns. Yeah, just like we started off just having multiple engineering interns. We ended up hiring one of the interns who's now a lead engineer through that program.
That's awesome.
And now just last summer we hired 2 marketing interns, because and I'm like, I don't know about marketing.
You're on that step, yeah.
So now we're now learning all about marketing and things like that. And the other thing I did, which was wonderful, was convince my brother to quit his job and come on board as our CEO. Because I'm an engineer and I'm a tech guy, and I'm not. And he was more a business person. So getting him to come on board, you need that. Yeah. Like you said, it's very lonely, but as soon as you have someone else there, it makes all the difference. You can bounce ideas off, brainstorm, and partition work. So having him on board is great. And it turns out he wasn't a hard sell. He's got hearing damage from his youth as a rock musician, and he's got active tinnitus. So he was like, I believe in this. I think the earplugs are great. I'll do it.
This is awesome.
Yeah. What advice would you give to an engineer that's thinking they might want to do entrepreneurship? Like, do you have advice about which stage of your career that would be most successful, or
do it early, do it mid-career, end of your career? Is there a time, I think something like that?
That's a very good question.
Yeah. I did it much more late in my career, based on the finding the thing which I felt I could make a business out of, the thing I wanted to bring to market. If I'd come across that thing earlier, I may have done it earlier, but it really took having that product I really wanted to bring to market. So I was more idea-based, I guess.
When you saw the opportunity.
The opportunity-based is a better way to put it.
Yeah. Say, when you talked earlier about not being this one thing,
right?
That's what led to this.
Right.
You finally found that thing you're passionate about.
Yeah, and it was almost like my whole life I was like, I don't want to be a salesperson, I want to be a business person, I want to be an engineer. And so it took me a long time to make that decision. Actually, I want to be an entrepreneur, mostly because I want to see this thing be a success. I was thinking about my career of engineering. There was a lot of reports sitting on shelves. I'm like, where's the thing that I've built that makes the world better? Which is what every engineer wants
dreams
to do.
Of. Right? I think one of the things, because we obviously don't know you, I hit you up on LinkedIn, you came on, and just like your story, I mean, I see like not just the passion, but like happiness. Does that make sense? Like you're kind of like, maybe it's a little bit different being the entrepreneur and running this, but like the excitement is there. Which is different than if you just wake up and you're going to work today and I hope this experiment works, or I got to go, do this or whatever.
Or whether this experiment works or not, I'm still getting paid.
That's right. Like, right. I mean, would you say it's like really rewarding? I mean, I feel like you like,
we used to quantify our enjoyment in engineering as how many aha moments did you have this year, like moments that just blew you away. And if you're having aha moments, it's very cool. So in research, we would have them like, you're the first person, your experiment finally works. You're the first person to see these little waves, coming out of your hot wire in this bandwagon. And that's like, whoa, that is so cool. No one has ever seen this before. That would blow me away. And then I think working for in a company, there's just less of those, right? But
We have it all the time. We have it all the time.
I know, entrepreneurial, like you get those all the time. You're like, whoa, like something works, you bet the whole company on it, and it actually works.
Yeah.
That's a huge aha moment.
If they only knew how often that happens for me, I'm like, oh boy, this paid off. All right. I protect them. I'm like, but no,
It's so true, right?
it's,
That's what makes it interesting. And
that's awesome.
the other thing I've learned is if you're not frustrated, you're not learning.
Oh.
That's a pretty good quote too.
That is a great.
Yeah,
quote.
Mostly that
great
applies
quote.
to me in accounting.
Well,
My brain does not work with double entry accounting at all.
Oh, it's terrible. Yeah, I understand that. As you get bigger, you can bring
You can
more people.
outsource
You can
that,
outsource that. Yeah.
I guess I only have one other question,
Okay.
and it's, how afraid were you to fail?
I
What-
think
Or is that even an option?
Like, yeah, because sometimes we've had people on here who are like, I wasn't.
Yeah, I don't think I was until I had employees,
Mm-hmm.
and it once you have employees, now you feel responsible for more than just you, and then the fear of failure goes up.
Because
think
I know
that's
for
probably-
me, when I thought about kind of doing things on my own or starting a business, it was that fear. There's that fear, that failure of losing the farm, you know, and it's something I've always struggled with. So I love hearing people who believe in something so much that they weren't.
Yeah, and it depends on your time of life, and this maybe gets back to your other question. If you're very young, there's very little fear of failure, right? Because what have you got to lose? Your career's ahead of you. You can pivot. You can.
Yeah.
So that's a chance. You can put everything you own in a car and drive away, right, and do a new job. Once you have kids and college and a house, suddenly it gets more real. Like failure now could impact more people than yourself, and that's kind of the same when you have employees. Suddenly failure becomes more real, and the consequences become larger. But then you can always get other jobs, you can do things. So I think my fear of failure became much less when I realized I'd be quite happy living in a van down by the river. I think my wife has the same feeling. So that's where our discussions go. It's like, do you really want to do this? I'm like, yeah, I'll be quite happy in a van down by the river. She's like, well, I don't know if I would, you know. So then
get
maybe it's
accustomed-
good if your wife also has a job, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
diversified, your
Mitigate
risk.
the risk. That's
Exactly.
right. Well, we appreciate you coming on today.
Yeah. Well, thank you
It's
so
been
much. This has
awesome.
been really fun.
This has
and
been amazing.
Absolutely. It's so cool to see your facility here.
So you have a website, right?
We do. We have a website, Paxauris.com.
Okay.
That's where you can go to our Kickstarter.
Okay.
Back us if you want to get one of these before Christmas.
You got it.
Yes,
We'll promote it. This will be coming out before Christmas, so
Yeah.
we definitely will. This episode will, and we'll put it to our feed and everything, and
Awesome.
that's awesome. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, this is a great program you're doing. It's really fun to sit and talk acoustics.
Yes, absolutely.
Very rare.
Yeah.
It is, especially here in this right here in Phoenix. It's a little bit different than it is like in maybe back east or the West Coast. So, all right, thank you, Tony.
Oh, awesome. Thanks very much.